a lot of migrants are disadvantaging them or themselves or discounting themselves from applying in the NHS because of one big mindset mistake. And that mistake is when they tell themselves, or when you hear them say, I only have got domiciliary care experience, I have only done domiciliary. Until I moved from domiciliary care into the NHS, I didn't realize that domiciliary has got some of the strongest care skills that you can ever find or that you can ever need, especially if you're moving from abroad and you're coming to the UK into the care industry. Domiciliary is that foundation that you probably need. But it took me transitioning from domiciliary into the NHS to see how much of those strong transferable skills that I had through my experience in domiciliary care. The problem isn't that you are underskilled or you've got no experience. The problem is most migrants do not know how to, to leverage on that experience, how to give language and how to translate that domiciliary care experience into acceptable NHS language, acceptable NHS transferable skills that they are actually looking for. So if you are that person who is looking into transitioning into the NHS, this is the place to be, guys. A big welcome to my YouTube channel. Today, I'm going to be talking about some of the skills that you can actually transfer, some of the important skills that you gain from domiciliary experience that are quite useful or that are on demand when it comes to you getting into the NHS. Part and parcel of why probably maybe you are struggling to get into the NHS is because of that language. So yes, we're talking about how the NHS values the skills that you would have attained and honed when you were in domiciliary. We're going to be talking about how you can package them nicely in a CV or personal statement, because that's what we've been doing, speaking to people behind the scenes. As you know, on Facebook, I do run a subscription page where I'm helping, review personal statements, do those CVs with most of you, and we're seeing success. So if you're intentional about growth as a caregiver, transitioning into the NHS, now do watch this video until the end, because we are unraveling how you can use the skills that you gained as a domiciliary caregiver to get into the NHS, to succeed and grow in the NHS. I did it and I've got no regrets, and I'll be spilling the secrets in this video. So don't forget to subscribe as well, because we are getting into that mode where we are sharing all the tips, we are sharing all the success stories, and we're also sharing opportunities for growth and transitioning. Because I mean, after 4 years in the care industry, there are things that we've seen, there are things that we've learned, and there are things as well that we are beginning to see that, they are within, touch's reach, based on experience, based on competence, based on qualifications and skills that we've been gaining. So we're going to be sharing and talking about it on this video. So let's get right into it. One thing I hear mostly whenever I have a conversation with a migrant carer is, oh, I've only worked in domiciliary, I've only done domiciliary, I'm still working in domiciliary, I've never worked in a hospital setting. But until I joined the NHS, I didn't realize that across board, care is guided by the same principles. And one of the very things that I do swear by and that I've come to realize, having worked, you remember in my previous video, I shared about how I have worked in domiciliary, worked in care homes, worked in specialist support, complex care, worked as well for the NHS, is the fact that care in this country, in this industry, is guided by the 6 C's of care. So whether you're in domiciliary or you're in a care home or you're within the NHS, for as long as you've mastered the 6 C's of care, then you're good to go. And also some of the principles that do guide care and that you can leverage on and use as transferable skills are things like safeguarding, things like patient care, things like your documentation, your medication, moving and handling. Those things apply across board. So before you can discount all the experience that you have, before you can, you can start talking down all the experience and, the things that you have done, look internally, look at yourself and how good you've been. Look at all the compliments that you do get in your appraisal, the compliments that you get from the people that you look after. It's how I grew the confidence to say, you know what, I'm going to give the NHS a chance. Things like communication is the basics. Across board, you're communicating. And the way the NHS values things like that, you'd think, when you hear migrants talk about transitioning into the NHS and how hard it is, you'd think it's rocket science. But I did it, and I didn't have anything fancy. I just knew I was ready, I was ripe. Having spent 18 months, if not 2 years, doing domiciliary care work diligently. The reason why I can proudly say that I was ready was the fact that I was so focused. Once I discovered that I wanted to get into the NHS, I began to hone those skills daily. I began to really be good when it comes to documentation. I began to be good at observing changes in condition and escalating them in time. And these are the very things that you're doing in domiciliary care. One of the very examples that I do give when I'm doing my consultations, behind the scenes one-to-one consultations, which I do, if you go on my Facebook and subscribe, you get a chance to speak to me, ask me all the questions, and we can guide you through those things. It's the fact that you know that in domiciliary, you literally have more responsibility than someone who is in a care home as a caregiver, someone who is a support worker or caregiver in the NHS. Why? Because even people in the office where you work are relying on you, are relying on your notes, are relying on you turning up so that they can start doing their own work. So they are relying on you escalating, communicating, documenting, and observing as you do your work. So don't underestimate the trust that a whole organization puts on you when they send you out to do the job. The way you manage risks on your own, there's no supervisor there with you, there's no staff nurse there with you. You're doing all of that by yourself. It's those very same things that I would say then, when you package them in a personal statement, when you package them in a CV, and then you're applying, that is gold when it comes to applying in the NHS. One of the most successful applicants, migrant applicants that I've seen in the NHS are those that are coming from a domiciliary care background. Partly it's because they've got that sense of responsibility, sense of independence, sense of risk awareness, because they've always been doing that on their own in the community and reporting, and they've managed to safeguard the people that they were looking after. Of course, we cannot even start, when it comes to working professionally, because that's what you would have been doing when you are in domiciliary care. You are literally representing that organization from call to call, from household to household, from conversation to conversation, because you are the representation of that organization that you stand for. Each time that you're turning up for that morning call, each time that you're turning up for that meds call, you are representing your organization. And believe you me, most of you are doing it perfectly fine. You're representing your organizations well, of which that's what the NHS is looking for when it looks at you, when it looks at your CV. All you just then need to do is to package that, give all those things language, give all those things the right NHS language, and you're good to go. Of course, the environment would change. It's a hospital environment. It's an MDT environment, but the principles are the same. The expectations are the same. And because of that, I've come to believe that domiciliary care gives you the right foundation that you need, especially as a migrant. Transitioning into the NHS, you've got more leverage. I cannot fault you for that. I'll share with you a bit of my own personal experience going into the NHS. I mean, when I got the job, reality really hit me hard. I was like, will I be able to manage? This is unfamiliar territory for me. I've never worked in a hospital environment. Will I manage? However, it was after my induction, after my shadow shifts, that I realized, you know what? Domiciliary has prepared me well enough. How did I know? Actually, one of the things that keeps standing out for me whenever I have these conversations is the fact that wherever I would go, patients would ask me, like, how long have you been working here? How long have you done this for? Did they train you there? For me, whenever I'm asked a question, especially by a person I'm looking after, there are two things that stand out for me. It's either I'm not competent enough, I'm not good enough, or I'm exceptional. And guess what? I would pay attention as well to say, you know what, at the end of the shift, probably someone would have gone to the nurse in charge and said, I'm not happy with the care that I got today. However, I didn't get that. Instead, where I work, they get these monthly patient feedback on each and on a lot of things. It's like a mini audit, but on patient review and patient feedback. Guess what? The first time, I think in the first 3 months, I featured in, I think, about 2, patient responses, patient feedback, and all that positive feedback was positive. I cannot even start mentioning feedback that I would get from colleagues. One of the things that people underestimate is feedback. Pay attention to what your colleagues say when you are in a team, especially when you're new. Also, you can ask for that feedback. I'm very good when it comes to that. I always say, how am I doing? I always would approach my deputy ward manager and say, I've been here for such and such weeks. How am I doing? That grew my confidence. And I know you, my fellow migrants, I know you. I know what domiciliary does to you. I know the preparation, it's so thorough. It gives you the independence. It gives you the risk awareness. It gives you, that mindset, to that attention to detail. It gives you, it just gives you. It gives you that. So I never struggled. Part and parcel of what domiciliary care taught me was patience, adaptability, professionalism, observation, and people skills. When I talk of people skills, people underestimate this one. Migrants, I've seen a lot of people who just say, do your work and go home. If you're watching this video and you're that kind of person, you need to think about what doing your work and going home means. I think I'll talk about that in a separate video. One of the things that I've grown to understand is that this care job is a person-centered job, is a people job. So part and parcel of a huge, growth contributor or success contributor in this job is when you have excellent people skills. Not only with the people that you look after, but also your colleagues. How you speak to them, how you react to them, how you relate with them, how you feed back to them, how you gelling into that team. I learned that when I first worked in complex care. I worked in a team where, amazing team. And part and parcel of what they would look at, I observed as they spoke, as they went on to recruit other people, part and parcel of the feedback that they would give sometimes would be, this person is not the right fit for this place. Not only for that person that we look after, but also for the team. So it's very important that you become a fit to the team. They're already there before you. How best can you fit into that team? You fit through humility. You fit through teamwork, collaboration, hard work, putting in the work, pulling your own weight as well, contributing to that whole team. So it's not just about I do my work, and accountability, responsibility, punctuality, things like that. Those skills will take you far. And I believe if someone has worked in domiciliary, obviously you are somebody who is a good time manager. You are someone who is are very good at feedbacking, very good at, handing over, things like that. Having said all these things, still you sometimes come across people that still fail to break into the NHS. And I'll share with you why. Part and parcel is people downplay agency work. I mean, I've said it time and again to say, when I first started, part and parcel of my goal, when I've done a video where I said I worked 4 jobs. Part and parcel of that job, I worked through an agency. Add that to your CV, add that to your personal statement, because there is a lot that, it says a lot about you as a person. Part and parcel of what people do, most migrants do, is they downplay part-time work. They only focus on work that they did with sponsorship. And also when it comes to downplaying work and experience, some migrants do downplay volunteering work. I can never do a video about the NHS and not talk about volunteering or talk about bank work. Why? Because it says a lot about you. There's a lot that you learn through that. I always call it building experience portfolio, building references portfolio. There's so much to learn in there. Part and parcel of why people fail, again, is a weak personal statement. I cannot overemphasize the fact that you have to tailor your personal statement to suit that particular job role. One of the examples that I love to give whenever I'm coaching and I'm having conversations behind the scenes, I always say, it's only a passport that can take you to America, take you to Zimbabwe, South Africa, take you to Spain, France, wherever. When it comes to personal statements and CV, for each and every job that you apply to, you have to tailor your personal statement to suit that job role. You have to tailor that CV to suit that job role. So some people are failing simply because they've got one generic personal statement that they're using everywhere. And when you ask them, they say, isn't it it's the NHS? Isn't it it's the same job? It's the same, community job. It might be the same job, but it's a different trust altogether. They've got different values, they've got different expectations whatsoever. It could be the same trust again, but it's different departments, and different departments have got different expectations, different agreed ways of working, and they're looking after different set of people that are needing support. So when you use that one generic, you're not speaking directly to the person that you are applying to. And that can then disadvantage you when you're making that application. So it's very important that you are tailoring your personal statement, you're tailoring your CV to suit that particular application that you are making. Another reason why a lot of people fail is the language that people use in these personal statements and these CVs. We all have excellent, brilliant skills, excellent, brilliant competences, qualifications, you name it. Superb experience, superb skills, superb qualifications. However, if you don't give them the language that panelists and people that are shortlisting are looking for, you can spend ages applying with no success. NHS shortlisting is based on language, NHS language. You could be having those qualifications, that experience that they're looking for. But if that language is not showing in your application, is not showing in your personal statement, then forget being shortlisted. Part and parcel of the things, it's not just about listing skills, listing where you've worked. It's about portraying experience, portraying how qualified you are, portraying how that will contribute to the job at hand. Part and parcel of the things that they'll be looking at. They're not just looking at you saying, I helped clients. They're looking for language such as person-centered care, dignity, respect, safeguarding, documentation, care planning, risk assessments, things like that, multidisciplinary collaboration. You get that language. So all of us, we've worked in care for that long. But if we don't know how to put into language our experience, our expertise, our strengths, what we bring to the table, then we can as well kiss goodbye to getting shortlisted in the NHS. So now, let's talk about strategies to get into the NHS. We can never have this conversation about going into the NHS and not talk about strategy. Especially now, it's getting so competitive trying to get into the NHS. I've been receiving feedback. They are requiring a lot of things. They are, competition is so stiff at the moment. So you need to work on your strategy if you want to break into the NHS. Part and parcel of those strategies that I always say is join volunteering, join NHS Bank. What that does is it positions you internally. I always say, to people that I speak to behind the scenes in our subscription, part and parcel of the shortlisting doesn't start in your personal statement. There's always that question that they ask on track. For those that have applied in the NHS, I'm sure you'll be able to concur with me in the comments. There's a question that says, do you work for the NHS or for this trust? Those that will say yes have got an advantage, has got an edge over those that haven't worked in the NHS. Part and parcel of the things that I've discovered, because I got a chance to ask someone and say, but what difference does it make? It does make a difference, because part and parcel of what I was told by one manager was the fact that, actually, I would rather get someone who has volunteered or who has worked on NHS Bank, because they already are familiar with the system. They already know policies and procedures in the organization, rather than taking someone directly who is coming from outside. So you position yourself correctly. And I love people that join NHS Bank, because that's how I broke into the NHS, having applied with no success until I joined NHS Bank. And you know what? A few months later, I got the biggest breakthrough of my life. And when I got that invite to an interview, I didn't just get one, but I had 3 interview invites for the NHS, and I had to pick and choose, cherry picking and choosing. So positioning is very key. Part and parcel as well of the strategy is volunteering. Again, it gives you an edge, proximity and everything. And when you are getting asked to say, do you work for this NHS trust or do you work for the NHS? Gladly say yes, even if you're a volunteer, because you've gone through the process, you've gone through your DBS checks and everything. You are part and parcel of that system. So let it work for you. Let it work in your favor. Also building confidence, the confidence to say, I can do it. And we can also help you do that. Go on Facebook, join our subscription, and we can gladly help you to review that personal statement, help you to structure and craft that personal statement. And believe you me, we've been seeing success after success within our subscriber hub. Also, part and parcel of the strategy is looking at the positions that you apply to. I know a lot of people, I know I'm someone who is a risk taker. I'm someone who is, I do take risks sometimes, but there are times when you realize, like, you know what, I'm just applying for this job, but probably this is just a long shot. If you do not have direct NHS experience, it's not wise to apply in specialist roles. You would rather apply to those roles that are actually like more inclined to, community experience. There's some roles that we do apply, it's just an added application, but leverage, strategy, zero strategy there. So for those that are coming from domiciliary, apply to community, apply to smaller hospitals, community hospitals, apply to rehab, reablement based roles, apply to dementia based roles, adult palliative care roles, mental health roles. Those are more or less inclined to the jobs that we're used to doing and covering when we are in community. So if there is anything that I would like for you to take from this video, is the fact that stop underestimating that domiciliary care experience. That is gold. That experience is leverage, is gold, is everything, is the foundation of care. All you just need to build from there is the confidence, the leverage, and also being able to understand that those skills and competencies are transferable, and the NHS do value those experiences, and they can also open doors the same way they open doors for me and many others that are using their domiciliary care experience to break into other roles and other sectors of the care industry. What you now need to know is that positioning, confidence, and proper articulation and language of your experience will get you far, will get you into the NHS. And this, if you are struggling to do that, in our subscription hub, we do help with that personal statement, with that application. Join our subscription on Facebook. I'll try to put that link in the description, and we can gladly take you through all of that. We can coach you, and also when you have successfully been invited to an interview with the NHS, we help you with interview coaching. We've seen amazing, brilliant success, and we can't wait to work with you. We do CV reviews, personal statement, one-to-one guidance, and real progression conversation for achievements for migrants. And guys, if this video has been so helpful, please do subscribe, give us a like, and type NHS in the comments. And if you've got any other videos that you want us to expand and explain, do share in the comments, and I will see you in my next video. Bye for now.